When people hear tax compliance, they think paperwork. But tax compliance is not about paperwork. It's about decisions. Every decision you make, what you spend on, what you invest in, where you sleep, is going to be affected by or is going to have an impact on your taxes. As a tax practitioner, I hear a lot of times people describing their taxes emotionally. They'll say, I think I'm fine. Well, SARS hasn't contacted me, so it's all good. Well, I'll let my accountant handle that. Well, I've already paid something. What more do they want? None of these feelings are compliance. They're just assumptions. And these assumptions are dangerous because SARS doesn't operate on feelings. It operates on records. So let's drive the point home. Your tax compliance is going to determine whether the decisions you make are made with a hidden risk or they're made cleanly. If you're compliant, your decisions are going to be reversible, all your options remain open, and you're not going to have surprises coming out of the blue. But if you're not compliant, every decision carries invisible consequences. Delays become expensive, and pressure builds quietly. Compliance is not about obedience. It's about freedom of movement. Shifting your tax compliance from an emotional space to a decision lens requires that you answer 3 questions. First, is the view that SARS has of my finances accurate? Second, is my history complete? Third, is my position defensible? Let's start with the first one. How do we ensure that SARS has an accurate view of our finances? You need to make sure that your registrations, your income streams, and your disclosures match reality. And how do you make sure that your history is complete with SARS? Make sure you file every return, even if you don't make any money. You can file a nil return. And lastly, how do you make sure your position is defensible? Well, the question here is, if SARS queries it tomorrow, do you have the records to prove it? So if any one of these 3 are missing, you're making decisions on shaky grounds. And this is where a lot of people get caught up. They're compliant in one area, but they're not compliant in another area. They've filed personal income tax, but they've not filed provisional tax. They've registered a company, but they've ignored PAYE. They've paid tax, but they're missing submissions. And in so doing, they're leaving themselves and their businesses at risk. Because ultimately, SARS isn't going to reward your effort. SARS cares about alignment. So here's something to ease your mind on this. SARS does care about records. SARS does care about alignment. But SARS is always willing to work with people who are forthcoming and who are seeking to be compliant. SARS will penalize heavily those who avoid their taxes, those who procrastinate, those who ignore the notices that they get. But if you are forthcoming, there are lots of breaks and avenues for you to help you get compliant. When your compliance is clear, your behavior will change. You will stop procrastinating, you will stop guessing, and you'll stop making reactive decisions. So if you think that tax compliance is admin, it will always feel like a burden. But if you think of it as a decision lens, it becomes a tool for you to use. It's a tool that will tell you what you can do safely, what needs attention first, and where the risks in your business or your personal finances lie. So if you're not sure whether your current tax position gives you that clarity, the first step is not to panic, it's to verify. That's why we have the AmaTrillions free tax compliance assessment to help you figure that out. That assessment will help you to replace assumptions with facts and move from making emotional decisions to having a system in place for tackling your tax compliance. In our next video, we're going to be looking at why do so many people think they're compliant when they're not tax compliant.